I'm Chris.
John, Willingham.
Nice to meet you, John. This is my wife, Christina.
Make sure you get that.
True. Get a close up. Yeah, this is quite the production you got going on.
Yeah.
This whole project, all in, is going to cost you how much?
45 to 55 million. All these massive concrete buildings are laying on these pillars to make sure we get the ZeroPak in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, we are here with John. He is the mastermind behind this entire project, this massive renovation of a historical site. So excited to be here, get a first ever look, full tour of the building. First time on camera getting to do this, so excited to get a full breakdown of it. So if you can just give us a little overview of yourself.
Absolutely.
And then take us on a tour.
Sure. And I'm one of 3 masterminds. I do have 3 partners in the ZeroPak development project. But this building has been in Winchester in various pieces that we'll go through as we're organizing this conversation. But every building was built in a different time frame, but starting in the 1920s and then adding on. So former coal storage, ice storage, apple storage building. It had been sitting vacant for the last probably 10 years in the city of Winchester. So it became kind of a derelict property for the city. They had been looking for affordable housing opportunities within the community. And so Virginia had created a new state low-income housing tax credit project.
Yeah.
And so from that, we were able to use some of our resources, and my project partners and I have done other tax credit projects before.
Yeah.
And so this we thought was a nice, unique opportunity to introduce real affordable housing into the city of Winchester.
Yeah, right on. Well, I have a bunch of questions. We'll get out of the road so we're not blocking traffic. So yeah, just take us wherever.
Right. Okay. So a couple of unique things about the building. Usually you don't see a building that is literally on the lot line. So, normally if you would build a building now today, you would never have the building officially set literally on top of the lot lines.
Okay.
You'd require green space and open space and things like that. So
yeah.
One of the more difficult challenges to this project was we had to work around some of the city ordinances and things like that, because we were not only on our lot line, we didn't have any green space, we didn't have any parking, we had to solve that. And then we had behind us the CSX rail line.
Yes.
So working within this rail line was also difficult, because you obviously got to engage the railroad. They don't want you on their line. And so one of the things you'll see when we go to the back of the building is we actually are demoing off most of the back of the building to move it back off the line.
Okay.
But then we're creating new windows that had never existed there that is going to create a lot of the daylight. The windows that are cut up there, do you see beside the ZeroPak sign? So those are all brand new. So before, obviously this is a cold storage, they wanted to keep it cold, right? So they designed it to be cold. And so they didn't want to have daylight and windows and things of that nature, because they're trying to, obviously, that's their product, is to keep things cold. So that's some of the things that were challenges as part of the architectural creation of this project.
Wow. And this is a historical site, correct?
This is a historic building. So we're utilizing historic tax credits from federal and Virginia.
Okay.
And we're also utilizing tax credits from low-income housing tax credits from Virginia and federal as well.
Okay.
So the majority of the financing of the project is from tax credits.
And when you say tax credits, what does that mean? Because I've heard of tax credits where it just goes to lower the tax liability of a business.
That's what it does.
That mean?
That's literally what it does here.
Okay.
So mostly corporations, a lot of banks, insurance companies, they obviously have large tax liabilities.
Yeah.
So tax credits are basically like a payment substitution.
Okay.
So the government in the tax code created an opportunity for projects like this to be preserved, to hopefully create more affordable housing. They gave incentives for companies, and so instead of just giving a cash subsidy to projects, they did it through the tax code via tax credit. So we generate tax credits from the creation of all the work that we're doing here. And then we have a project partner that'll come into the partnership as an investor, and then they will take those credits, but they're not getting them for $1, right? So they're going to get them for 80 cents or 85 cents or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
And so that lowers their tax liability. So they pay $1 worth of tax, but they only pay 85 cents for the credits.
Interesting. And has it been difficult working with, because my wife and I own multiple properties, and my rule has always been never buy in an HOA and never buy a historical property.
Okay. Yep.
This is clearly a historical property.
Yeah.
Has it been difficult to work with the city with a historical property?
So the city's been great. And so when you do a historic tax credit project, you actually have to go through 2 pieces. You have to go through the state historic tax credit review, and then you also have to go through the National Park Service of the Department of Interior of the United States.
Okay.
So they review all of your plans, and then they can say, well, this is acceptable, this isn't. There's a whole guide and standards and codes that they follow.
Yeah.
And so we had to have our architects adapt how we designed this building to be compliant with preserving the history of the building. You can do certain things, and certain things you can't. So for example, we wanted to put a bank of windows on that front of the building where the ZeroPak is. We couldn't do that because they're trying to preserve what they would consider to be the historical significance of that facade. But they would let us do it on the secondary elevations and the rear elevations because those were not as important historically or significant to them. So the interior of the building, all the layouts and the designs had to be approved by those folks. Now, and then the city has to review it from the building permit and all the other stuff. But we have to work in tandem, and this took us 24 months from basically the start of the project to getting started on the construction, right? Because you're doing reviews, you're submitting it, you're getting feedback, you're adjusting your plans, you're doing all this other stuff. In addition to that, the city of Winchester is updating their streetscape here. So they're putting in new stormwater pipes. They're doing new public utilities for water and sewer. And then they're going to redo this street, put new sidewalks in as well.
Oh, sick. Okay, awesome. Well, let's continue on. Let's get it.
Across the street, right here, when we're finished the project, we'll be putting in what's going to be called the ZeroPak. So as part of this green space that we had to do, we were working with the city to have a place where kids and the families can go that live here, but have green space and amenities and things like that. We'll have some things in the building for kids to go outside. We're going to work with the Parks and Recreation Department to program this space, maybe have some playgrounds and some other things. So we're naming it the ZeroPak.
Sweet.
And it'll be in this green space over here.
And is this parcel or piece of property like conveyed with this one, or is this a separate parcel?
It's a separate owner. We hope to do a project here one day, but that's down the road.
Okay, got it. So ZeroPak is contingent upon...
No, the ZeroPak will definitely happen.
ZeroPak's happening.
But this would be a second potential project.
Got it.
If we ever purchase this.
So you own that piece of land right there?
We have control and we have the ability to use it as the park. That's called hitting rock.
Yeah, so what are they doing right here?
They're literally, so they're putting in stormwater pipes. But there's rock underneath of there, so the only way that they can run those pipes is if there's clearance. That's actually literally hammering rock. So it's digging rock up out so that they can lay these pipes that are coming down. We had to acquire, just past this building, there's a Quonset hut, and then there's a lot, and that's going to serve as some of the parking, and then where this crane is where some of the other parking is. So this Quonset hut, all the way down to the Gibbon Street here at the corner. This will be demoed out and cleared out, and this will be one of our parking lots. And then there were two buildings here that were old precast concrete buildings with basically tilt-up walls. So we demoed out all of this to the rear. This will also become surface parking.
So you guys just knocked down two buildings right here?
We just knocked down two buildings. You take them panel by panel, so that's a 200-foot crane. You can see it from downtown Winchester. I mean, you can see it everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, it's probably one of the larger cranes that we've had in this community.
And who's doing all of this work? Because this is a serious operation you have going on.
Morgan Keller is our general contractor. And then obviously they sub it out to other people. So ISI Demolition is the demolition contractor. And so they brought the crane guys in from Boston, and then their own teams are inside doing a lot of the demo that you'll see.
Wow.
But ISI does a lot. If you go check out their website, they do a lot of stadium demos, massive buildings. And so because of the nature of the building, just it's got a lot of stuff to it, right? It's concrete, it's brick, it's whatever. And obviously concrete gets stronger over time. So that's been curing for like 30 years, right? So you can't just get in a normal demo crew and say, hey, go knock this thing down. Right? So literally when you watch the video, they're moving panels off of this. So it's a really cool, intricate process.
That's crazy.
But so Morgan Keller subs everything out, and ISI is one of their groups out of Maryland.
And what did you say these two buildings were like originally used for back in the day?
So, like I mentioned to you before, so from the beginning of the building, every building successively was literally built onto each other, right? And so they didn't care about aesthetics. It was more about function over form, right? So they just needed a place to store their goods, keep them there, and that's why they're on the rail line, right? Because they would haul stuff on and off, and so they needed to be close to the rail.
Got it.
So when we go to the rear of the property, you'll see basically where there was holes or doors where the rail cars would come up, they would load and unload. Okay,
That's so cool.
It was built for that use, not for housing, of course. So at the end, so each building successively was built on. So this building right here was built in 1964.
Yeah.
We did try to demo that, but it was deemed to be historic, even though it was past the period of significance. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
So these two buildings were built in the mid 80s.
Okay.
And so they didn't have any historical significance. We were originally going to leave it as covered parking.
Okay.
But it actually was more expensive to replace the roof and make all the changes to that than it was to actually take them down.
Knock it down.
Yeah.
Makes
and
sense.
They didn't really have any significance to the project or anything historically, so the tax credit people don't really care about things like that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
And then, so this was obviously for like cold storage, right?
Yep,
like
yep.
the
All
original
the entire building. Yep.
And so what were they storing? What was was the food products? Like, was it apples? We're obviously here in Winchester.
That's apples.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. We're in the apple capital of Virginia.
That's right. So when you build a concrete building like this precast,
Yeah.
it's not just concrete, right? So there's a massive amount of rebar and insulation that goes into it as well.
Yeah.
When they're demoing this off, they're breaking these things apart at the end. And so there's a ton of rebar in here.
Yeah.
So you can't just smash this, throw it away, and move on. They actually have to break it up. A lot of the times you can crush that concrete and reuse it for other projects.
Okay. And so this will eventually be parking. How many cars do you anticipate this massive spot to be able to hold?
Between these two, I think our total parking's in the 160 to 180 units.
Okay, got it.
Spots, I would say.
Is there a requirement with the city that they have, you have to have X number of parking
Absolutely,
spaces?
sure, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
how do they dictate that number?
It's by code. They generally say, depending on the type of bedrooms that you have. So if you have a 3-bedroom, it'll dictate a certain amount of spots, 2 bedrooms,
Okay,
and then 1 bedrooms.
got it.
So we have 121 units. The vast majority of them are 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
And so because of that, you do a parking calculation. They say, okay, you need to achieve this, and then that's that. Now, obviously, from a functional perspective, we want to lease this building up, right? That's our main goal.
Yeah.
And so you can't just say, well, I'm going to have 1 parking spot per apartment. You always want to have some excess parking.
Yeah.
Because people are going to have visitors or whatever else.
2 cars, all that fun stuff. Like,
yeah,
are you leaving? Is the goal
we
to
will
leave
leave a
as
lot of
much
this.
of
Yeah, I
as
mean,
possible?
this has been holding thousands of pounds of concrete, so it'll be able to hold cars with no problem.
I think you can hold a Honda Civic
Absolutely,
pretty easily.
100%, yeah. This will all get cleaned up, and then this will actually become the main entry point into the building. So from people parking, they'll walk in here. There'll be a management office, all the mailboxes, all the other fun stuff.
Yeah, sick. Did you grow up in Winchester?
I did.
Okay. Did you go to Hanley? Where'd you
I
go?
went to James Wood. There was only 2 high schools in the county when I was
back
in my day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm a Hanley grad.
Okay. Well, my kids are going to Hanley. So.
Oh, nice. What year are they?
My oldest is a senior, and my next daughter she's a sophomore, and then I have 2 other younger ones.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the oldest of 5, and my youngest sister is a junior.
Okay. Oh, she still goes there now.
She still goes there now. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a big gap between us. And then where'd you go to school after James Wood?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech.
Yep.
Nice. What'd you study there?
Accounting and finance.
And then I saw, are you a CPA by trade?
I started out as a CPA. I was a CPA I still have my license.
Okay.
I don't practice anymore, but I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for 3 or 4 years. I worked for YHB for 3 or 4 years, and then I became CFO of a bank.
Really?
I went into commercial lending, and then that's really where my my real estate entrepreneurial side took off. I was always an entrepreneur as a kid.
Okay.
Didn't really know what that meant. I mean, my parents were not entrepreneurs. My dad was a truck driver. My mom was, she worked in manufacturing facilities. So no one taught me, hey, this is how you become an entrepreneur. It's just kind of something of interest to me. After learning accounting and real estate and finance, I'm like, okay, this looks interesting. And so I started doing projects. And one of our first projects in Winchester, after we got it going, was we renovated a building actually where the City of Winchester's social services and health department are now.
Okay.
It was about 30,000 square feet, office building. It was a historic tax credit project, and that was also a new market tax credit project.
Interesting.
So, and then we've just been doing other deals from there.
Yeah. And so, do you have like other business partners? Are they part of your company, or do they have their own companies and you just kind of all partner together to make these deals happen?
So some projects I have partners, some projects I don't. I mean, a project of this size and scope and scale, I do have project partners. Any historic tax credit deal, because of the complexity of the financing and the tax credits, I generally work with Eric Wishneff, who's one of my partners.
Okay.
If it's a land deal or an industrial deal or something that involves my other businesses, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It depends on how big it is, how much risk I'm willing to take, what else is going on, what other opportunities exist.
There you go.
One of the things I wanted to show you guys was, as part of working with CSX, they have to approve all your plans, they have to do all this other stuff, but they made us, this is one of the rail lines, it's basically like a service line, but this black stuff is for ballast support so that nothing gets in their train tracks.
Okay.
And so that there's not trash and things like that. So that's one of the things they made us do. And this was my first time actually ever having to work with the railroad, but you're gonna see this netting, and it's all there because of our interior demo. It's there to catch any debris that might come out on the track. So they had to get scaffolding that went up and down, obviously, to put this all up. But
Yeah. And so will this, like, it almost looks like a landscaping fabric.
It's a lot of what it is. And then what you also had to put in what's called a super silt fence. So normally when you put in a silt fence, like around a construction project, it's just normally to capture it. But down at the further end, you actually have to put in physical fence to do that as well. So it's more expensive. And again, it's for them to protect their lines. They've got to come in and clean off the debris on a regular basis.
Yeah.
To do that. So that is exposed here where the graffiti is, that building came all the way down here. So we demoed that off, but the railroad would not let us bring on a track, hoe track, I guess.
Okay.
To clear this off and to remove all the rubble. So they actually had to have guys, laborers, with 5-gallon buckets take off all the debris. And so it felt like it was more of like a third world construction site than it was in Winchester. Yep.
Wow. And so have most of your projects you've worked on been in Winchester?
Most of them have been in Winchester, Frederick County. We did a historic renovation in Cumberland, Maryland.
Okay.
That was for a place called the Footer Building. That was an old dye works building.
Okay.
It's right on the river. It's a really cool place. And then we did another historic renovation project in Danville, Virginia.
Okay.
But otherwise, I've done some stuff in West Virginia. Eric has as well. But primarily Winchester's been for any of my historic renovations.
Yeah.
And the rest of my stuff is here as well.
And why do you like historic renovations? Is it because of the tax advantages?
There are some advantages of doing it. There's also a lot of complications.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I mean, there's something to be said about doing something unique.
Yeah.
Something not everybody else can do. That's a challenge. And you know, this one has been sitting around vacant for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of showing the community that things can be rehabbed, that can be repurposed.
Yeah.
You just need to know how to do that. And you need somebody who has the risk tolerance, the balls, the whatever you want to use, you know, language-wise. But But also, you know, it's people that can put things together. We had to work with the city of Winchester, the state, the federal folks. So it's a complicated project. And not that I don't like doing simple projects, but there is something that's just so cool about doing things like this.
So. No, this is awesome. And so I want to ask, what was the purchase price of this, I mean, massive building?
I believe it was around $850,000, $875,000.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And how long did the negotiation last from where you like originally had your eyes set on this to the actual close date?
So we had been working on it for a while. We wanted to make sure that a couple things were going to get passed in the General Assembly about the state low-income housing tax credit. We needed to talk to the city about potentially what we could do. So I'd say 3 to 6 months. It was engaging of what are we going to do this, or we not. Negotiations back and forth on the purchase price, things like that. So once the state approved the credit, we were willing to really kind of move forward and really spend real dollars on due diligence and things like that.
Got it. And what does real dollars on due diligence for a property of this size cost?
Well, my architect's fees were probably almost $2 million.
Okay.
So all in soft costs, I mean, you're talking, I mean, it's I'd say $2 to $4 million probably.
Okay. And wait, what's soft cost? What is soft cost?
So soft costs would be, you know, think of anything like engineering fees, permit fees, architecture, anything that you have to do to prepare and pay for to get ready to do the actual construction itself.
Got it.
Plans, things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there then a hard cost? Is there
there's a construction cost.
So is construction cost what you consider hard cost?
That would be
this?
hard cost, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. And so how big is this building? Like how many square feet or acres? How big is this building?
Total square footage of the building is probably 250,000 square feet if you include the basement. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a project of this size before?
With this project, I'll have done projects in about $125 million, and this project was probably $50 to $60 million. So
Really?
it's about half of the total project size that I've done.
So this whole project, all in, when it's all said and done, is going to cost you how much?
This total project investment into the community will be about probably 45 to 55 million.
Wow, that's a big project. And so what is your liability, like personal risk on this? Do you have anything that you're doing, or is everything kind of sheltered within an LLC or a trust, or somehow protecting yourself? Because that is a big a big project.
Well, so if we don't complete the projects, obviously we have risks because a lot of this is financed by tax credits.
Okay.
And so if we can't deliver that, then that obviously creates risks for us.
Okay.
We're putting money into the project to utilize those credits and to be a partner in the project as well.
Yeah.
And so obviously then we'll be borrowing money from Virginia Housing and other lenders to get it completed, and so that at the end we'll have a permanent loan. It won't be anywhere near that size.
Yeah.
But if we don't complete it, then we got completion risk about getting it done.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we don't put it into service, there's no tax credit, right? And so then there's no investor, and then there's everything else.
Everything dries up. Yeah. And I know that this building has been, people have attempted to restore this building multiple times. What makes you confident that you'll be able to get it done this run?
Do you see what's happening right now?
I mean, yeah, this is more than I've ever seen anyone do at this building.
Yeah.
This is like one of those cursed buildings in Winchester.
It's not
this
cursed,
is sick.
not at all.
Not anymore. It
was just, I would consider it to be unloved. Okay.
Fair.
So everybody had ideas and things like that. And to be honest with you, if Virginia would not have approved, and if people like Delegate Bill Wiley and other people would not have supported the low-income housing tax credit for Virginia, we wouldn't be standing here today. That was really one of the final linchpins. It was such a dramatic impact to be able to finance a project of this. But then we also had grants from the Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission, the Economic Development Authority of Winchester. I mean, there were multiple people that were participating in this.
Yeah.
Our own equity, things like that. So, but we've done this before. We put a good team together that had been putting together massive buildings. We got a good construction team. We've got our construction managers. So we had a good view of it. We knew what we wanted to do. We went through the process that we've done before, and so the numbers may be bigger than you're used to, or bigger than a project that I've done, but a lot of it's zeros, and so a lot of it's basic construction risk.
Yeah.
How do we get this completed? How do we get it completed on time? What's our schedule? What's it going to cost? Do you have contingency? How are you managing your risk on a regular basis?
And so this all in is going to run, between $45 and $50 million to complete. What do you expect the property to be worth once it's completely done?
Somewhere around there, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure somebody's done an appraisal somewhere else. The value of the property matters, but putting 121 families into this building matters a lot to us.
Okay.
We'll get paid on it, and it'll be a great asset for us and our community long term. But, I don't, as a real estate guy, I'm not as concerned about valuation. I'm much more concerned about cash flow. Okay. And I'm return on my investment. Okay. And so, something can be worth what it is today, and it can be worth a lot different tomorrow. Yeah. So I don't really try to make investments or predictions about what something could be worth. I'm more interested in what's the return on my investment, what are the cash flows that are going to be achieved from this project, and how do I make money off of it long term, and does it make sense for me and my family and the community and our partners.
Got it. Yep. And then, so what would your pitch be when you're trying to get investors into this? What are they expecting to see as from a cash on cash return, or just a return on their investment for a project like this?
It's different for a project like this because of the way that it's structured.
Okay.
And having so much in the tax credit and investment.
Yeah.
Tax credit investors are trying to invest in these projects for a couple of different reasons. One is they do want to impact the community, of course.
Yeah.
But banks specifically are regulated, and they're required to reinvest in their communities through the Community Reinvestment Act. Yeah. And so they have to have certain projects that are in low-income demographic areas, which is what this is. And so that's measured by incomes and all kinds of other demographic statistics that are out there. And so this is in a highly low-income density tract, which means that like if you took the map of Winchester and you looked at it, you'd say, okay, certain areas have incomes of X, Y, and Z, and the Z's are very low income. And so where this is some of the lower income areas.
Some of the lower income. Yeah. Got it. Okay, awesome.
So what they're doing here is we're literally cutting off the back of the building, like I said. They've got a robot that's actually cutting in to some of the areas.
Wow.
And so they'll peel all this off, and then we'll have a lot of windows in the back of the building.
Right on. Would you consider this like a syndication, a joint venture, or is this like a totally separate way that you're financing a project like this?
I mean, you can consider it a joint venture because of all the project partners that are involved, like I mentioned before.
Yeah. You've
got Virginia Housing as a lender. You have, people like the City of Winchester Economic Development Authority, the Regional Commission. You have tax credit investors. You have our equity. So there's multiple partners that are participating for different reasons, right? Yeah. Some of them are doing it because that's their mission. Some of them are doing it because they want to have, more affordable housing in the community. They want to have a building. If the city had to take this building over to demo all this out, it would be a lot more expensive than the investments they've made in the project. Yeah. So, that's another way for them to potentially look at a return on their investment. It's hopefully going to be a catalyst for other opportunities to be redeveloped in this area. Yeah. The city's working on these neighborhood design districts to give opportunities for developers and homeowners and people like that to really redo the area, upgrade it, and make it, so that it's a reinvestment area, and people can have an opportunity to improve where they live and create new economic activities. So when we go inside, you'll see where these guys had tied off inside. So when they're cutting this off, nothing can hit the track. Yeah. So that netting is actually protecting the tracks.
Yeah, makes sense. And so you mentioned that this, part of, I guess, the appeal to the city is that you're restoring a building in, for a lack of a better term, like a low income or a Z income neighborhood.
Yeah, this is considered to be, the northern end of the city. A lot of these buildings have been sitting here, some of them vacant, some of them not to their fullest use. And so it's an area that has not been, fully revitalized and needed a catalyst like this. But also, when you drive by this every day, if you live here and nothing's happening, momentum creates momentum, right? And when you see something like this happening, maybe this will make a homeowner over here want to reinvest, or you might have another developer want to buy a piece of property. Hopefully people can take what we're doing here and continue to magnify it to make the city of Winchester a great place.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we'll go into the roof and there's amazing views, but this is still downtown.
Yeah.
If you're in a major metropolitan area, they would consider this to be part of their core downtown. And so we're only a couple blocks away, and so you don't want buildings like this to languish and really be left alone to continue to deteriorate, because there's nothing going to be happening to this building other than getting worse.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, this is going to be a nice kind of staple piece of the downtown area once it's completed.
All right. I think you can kind of see this, but anyway, we did put up some berms. They'll do some greenscaping and some other stuff. But this is the other side of the building that we have.
Yeah, so. And look at that crane.
Look at the crane.
that thing is huge.
I mean, we could just do a film on the crane.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. We need to get a little camera going, just get a time lapse of it.
We didn't do that. We should have done that.
That would have been a cool. I don't know what kind of camera you'd be using for something like that, but. And so, is it going to be? Because once again, going back to my much smaller real estate investing portfolio, my wife and I always try and buy in B and C neighborhoods because they're easy to fill. You can charge good rent. You may not cash flow as much, but they'll appreciate. You'll have easier time filling with quality tenants, for lack of a better term. Obviously, this is designed for low-income housing.
Right.
What kind of due diligence or, I guess, risk tolerance do you have to have when renting to maybe somebody that's going to be in a more low-income, lower credit situation? Have you found that to be a difficult thing to find quality tenants in a scenario like this one?
Yeah. So. What I say is a couple things, and every low-income housing tax credit deal is different, right? So, and what you do is you're underwriting these things when you're doing your math, or you're looking at the housing market, you're looking at the surveys and all the analysis that they do about what's needed in the community, and what kind of absorption you're going to have, and what's being built, and all the other stuff. So for low-income housing tax credits, you actually have to be at a certain amount of what's called the area median income. And this project will be at 60% of the area median income. So I don't know, and the figures change on a regular basis, but our rents are actually dictated by that area median income. So if, for example, a family of 4, if the area median income is at $100,000, there's a maximum amount that they can make.
Does that make it hard to find tenants that will be able to pay on time?
No.
Like,
So
or is there Section 8 that's going to be helping?
No Section 8. If you look at the area median income of an area like Winchester, you know, you're talking about people, you know, working families, you know, firefighters, teachers, people who work in all kinds of different jobs will be able to afford these rents.
Yeah.
We don't create how much rent we can charge.
Okay.
It's literally dictated, like I said, by the area median income. And
Got
then
it.
as part of using Virginia Housing and these credits, you actually have to have a third-party property manager who's certified in managing properties like these.
Got it.
And they actually, so every year that you're a resident, you have to turn in your W-2s or other income tax forms to show that you make the requisite amount. So let's say that you got a massive job promotion and you doubled your salary, you wouldn't be able to live here.
Really?
And because it's really meant for people who are making a certain amount of income to be able to afford it.
Yeah. Do you have any idea of like generally what the like rent prices will be since they're dictated? Is there? Do you have any idea of what it is?
I won't know officially until, because every year they update these, and so our building won't be placed into service until the end of next year, hopefully. 2026, early 2026.
Okay.
And those numbers change annually, obviously, because inflation goes up or incomes go up or whatever the case may be. So they literally are telling you, here's what you can charge. I can tell you that they're usually, on average, $300 to $500 less per month than the market rate.
Than the market rate. Yeah, makes sense.
All right, you guys ready?
Oh yeah, let's check it out.
Let's check it out.
All right. Wow.
So we're in what we call building B now, so that's A, B. So we label these alphabetically because it's just easier. Because each building, as you saw from the outside, is unique. Right? There's not consistency in the design or anything like that. So every one of them has its own challenges, opportunities, and all the other fun stuff.
And so do you know what like this specific section used to be used for back in the day?
All of this would have been used for storage.
Just all storage?
All storage. We were going to put a mezzanine in this section, but the floor just didn't work out, so they actually had to cut out these old, nice, beautiful timbers. And then these guys are in there cleaning up the bottom and reinforcing some of the concrete.
Wow. And so I see like spray paint and stuff. Is there any like security you have to try and prevent squatters or people coming in and vandalizing?
Yeah. So once we started construction, the building was obviously secured. Prior to that, we would work with the City of Winchester's police department on a regular basis to try to get out people, but it was an issue. Obviously, our building's been graffitied and tagged and things like that. That had been going on for a long time. That's the other thing I was mentioning to you. You had this building that was empty and vacant, and it does nothing but create opportunities for bad stuff to happen, right? And so you had people breaking into the building, people living in the building. You had people who were vagrants, all the other fun stuff. And so the police having to deal with that on a regular basis, they've got more useful time to go find criminals and keep the public safe. So they wanted to see this improve as well because they didn't want to have to deal with the ramifications of an old building.
And so do you like put like security cameras in here, or do you have like a security team that like patrols it at night, or is there like any?
It's pretty secure. I won't say that you can't break in. I mean, But once they started construction, from the outside to get into this building is pretty tough.
Oh, it's pretty tight.
They've locked it down pretty good. So we demoed out where we could demo out, and then we had to keep what we had to keep. So certain things the historic folks made us keep. So like over here, this was required to stay. I'm not sure exactly what the historical significance was, but we couldn't demo this out. The rest of this were concrete block walls. We were able to demo this out. These pylons they're putting in here, this is for structural elements, right? So when they're demoing off that building, it's to keep the load spread.
Oh, wow. Okay, Anything special about these pillars? They look uniquely shaped. I don't know if there's anything special about them.
That is your structural load right there.
Okay.
So all these massive concrete buildings are laying on these pillars.
Okay.
and then there's obviously those joists and things like that.
Yeah.
But this is what's bearing most of the structural load.
Okay.
So when we go to other places, they'll be repairing them if they're not in good shape.
Wow. And so what will this eventually be used for, this space that we're in right now?
Almost all the space that you'll see throughout the entire building will be for apartments.
Will be for apartments.
Yeah, so we've tried to utilize almost all the square footage to fit as many units as we could. Obviously, we want amenity spaces, we want other things that it looks good, but the idea was how many units, just like in any other real estate deal, right?
Yeah.
I've got a fixed footprint.
Yeah.
How do I maximize that footprint to not only be a good investment, but to make the best use of the apartment?
Yeah. Wow.
So, as you can see, my architects had to get really creative on some of these.
Yeah.
And you can't have daylighting on some of the buildings. So we had to push in from skylights, and then all the windows from the side, and then all the windows from the back.
And are you allowed to have apartments with no windows in them? Is that allowed?
Yes, but they will have daylighting.
They will have daylight. Okay, got it. Is that a requirement to have daylighting?
You have to have ingress and egress, which you'll have for safety reasons.
Yeah.
But you want natural light, right? You don't want to live.
Oh
in
yeah,
area.
for sure. Yeah.
So really, most of the apartments that don't have any direct windows or things like that, the only place that they won't have any natural light will just be in their bedrooms.
Got it.
And so most people don't really care about having a window in a bedroom, right? You want privacy and the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far, but they're cutting these walls off, as you can see. So this is to hold up the structural load of this. So they will start cutting back to where those column pieces are.
Wow.
Then they will put in new walls, new windows all the way up. But they're literally cutting off the building.
Yeah. And so how long have you all been renovating this place?
We closed on our financing in July. We had been doing a little bit of work before then, but we probably really took off August, September.
Okay.
And then the ISI demolition crew came in and then started just wrecking shop, doing all the things that they needed to do. They cleared out all the elevator shafts. They've been clearing out a lot of stuff. So it's been very active construction site since then.
Yeah.
Securing the building, doing all these demo pieces to get ready. I don't want to go mess with these guys, but over there what they're doing is they're shoring up the building where some of the concrete's not good.
Yeah.
And so they're blasting it out, and then they'll reply the concrete to make the structural element work.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is very short ceiling.
It's not like this in all the sections.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what will this section be used for
Probably
eventually?
nothing, or it'll be used for HVAC units or things like that. No one's going to live here.
Yeah. And so for somebody that's, young and interested in getting into doing projects on this scale, what advice would you give them when they're first starting out? Like, what path could they try and start going down to eventually get to a point where they're doing projects at this magnitude?
I started out by buying a townhouse.
Okay.
And then we bought more townhouses. And there was a lot of learning. And that's what I think, like, anytime you're interested in anything, or you're an investor or you're an entrepreneur, the day you quit learning is the day you stop making money, or that you're going to be good, successful. So at least for me. And so it was always about learning and reading, talking to mentors, talking to other people. And so, there's so many asset classes as well in real estate.
Yeah.
So a little bit of it is finding what you're interested in.
Yeah.
Like, I like multifamily, I like industrial, I like land development. I don't like shopping centers, I don't like retail. So I don't understand those things.
Yeah.
So for me, I stay away from them.
Yeah.
And so I get into this. But to answer your question, I started small and I started building myself up and working my way up. Some people don't ever have to do that. You might own 10 townhouses, pay them all off, be worth $1 million, get good cash flow, and you're happy about your way.
Yeah.
For me, I love the process. I love the projects. And so the money and all the other things that come with those, if you're successful, are great, but that's not necessarily what drives me.
Yeah.
Having this be finished and created is amazing. Now I've got to do it, and it's got to be successful from a cash flow perspective, or it doesn't work again.
Yeah.
But those two for me go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of pre-work, a lot of pre-development, making sure that you've got your right setup, your right financing, all the other things, right partners, right equity, and capital. But eventually, hopefully somebody can do this. But you just don't start out by doing this as your first project.
Yeah.
Number one, you never get approved. But even for me, this wasn't like a home run project for everybody to approve. It was a difficult process. I mean, just think about all the things that you've seen so far.
Yeah.
Architecturally, it was difficult. Where it was located was difficult. Dealing with CSX could be difficult. Dealing with the city's project could be difficult. Finding enough tax credit investors could be difficult. So this is a project, I'm 47, I started investing probably in my 25, whatever it was. So it's taken me that long to get to a point where I'm comfortable. You build upon your experiences and your learning opportunities, and you kind of find the path of the asset classes that you like. And you get to know those extremely good. You understand your risks and what risk tolerance do you have. I mean, not everybody would want to do a large project, like I said. So it really depends on who you are as a person and what your interests are ultimately.
Yeah. And where would you advise people that are interested in learning? Because I agree, the day you stop learning or like being curious and trying to figure out new ways to do things is where you're going to just kind of plateau. So where would you advise them to learn? Is it YouTube, internet, podcast, books, mentors, like where?
Everything. And it's no size fits all. I mean, honestly, I've gotten so many good ideas being on X or Twitter. On a regular basis, I've found ideas that I've mimicked or we've innovated or we've changed. I found a massive amount of real estate community there. I'm looking at modular housing for multifamily. I found that from being on LinkedIn. I saw somebody post an article. I went down the rabbit hole of that on YouTube. And then I call people that I know that have experiences. And then just like anything in life, you build networks of people that you know that have done things. So like I would call my architect and say, hey, have you ever seen this project? Oh yeah, here's the 4 or 5 things you should be concerned about, and here's how you can make this potentially work. So it really is a lifelong learning opportunity and exercise. I got really started into real estate as well. Like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that was a great book for me. Not that I think it's like an end-all be-all, but it was just, even as somebody who's an accountant and a finance guy, like it reinforced all the ideas about this is how you're going to grow equity. This is how you're going to grow your income. This is how you're going to do that. You're not going to do it if you're doing certain other things. And so, you can do you can own other businesses. For me, real estate was one of very direct and I don't know, it probably got me more interested because it's also a physical thing about it. You can drive by it, you can see your projects. When I'm long dead and gone, my kids can tell my grandkids that, your dad built this and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not into legacy or ego building. I wouldn't do that because that doesn't make financial sense to me. But you do leave an imprint on the community. And a place like Winchester has impacted me greatly. So it's important to me to leave it better than I found it.
No, I definitely agree. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money doing stocks, bonds, crypto, whatever, but at least I like real estate for what you're saying too, is there is something nice about being able to like walk through the property that you like renovated yourself and be like, I did that. That's so cool. And
for me, the juice really is watching this happen. Like, I go by my projects and it's just fun. And you're also creating jobs for people and the guys that can take care of their families. And so it's a whole circular opportunity for everybody to improve themselves. But, driving by everything that I see is just like, we got a land development project. They were pouring curb and gutter today. Like, that's awesome. We're making progress. So for me to watch it happen is just, I don't know, it's something magical, honestly.
I love it. And it's also funny, a lot of people say the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book is like where they kind of, it all started to click and that just set them in motion. It's definitely not, it gives like great step-by-step, play-by-play, here's what you should do. But just from like a conceptual, you don't waste all your money on something that's going to go down in value. You buy something that then's going to pay for you to go and get the fancy car or whatever you want to do.
This is what it'll look like with windows.
I do like the light coming in.
It is nice, isn't it?
It's sweet. Oh, wow.
So they're literally cutting off the building. So what you saw on the other side of that is them starting to demo pieces off of the building.
Wow. And so that is the old exterior of the building,
that is
right?
That's what you just saw where that netting was.
And then the new building wall will be right here.
About where that column on, this new column on is, right?
Wow.
That's right.
And so remind me why you had to do this.
Well, we did it for a couple of purposes. One is we didn't want to be on top of the line. So every time we needed to service the building, we would have had to get in CSX's approval because we like I said, the building's on the lot line.
Got it.
Right? So we'd have to get an easement to go on and do anything with it. But the other thing was we needed to put windows in and create daylighting into the building. So if you see the plans, there's nothing but banks of windows back here.
That's cool.
But we needed to get the building off the line.
Got it. And so, well, I guess it's easy up here, but like downstairs, where there's no windows on this side of the building, are you eventually going to be cutting out windows to let daylight in that side? Or is it going to be like long apartments to let light come through?
If you look at the units, they're not shotgun style, but they are longer than they are wide.
Got it, cool. And so what are these cables going above us?
Well, that cable's for water. They have to wet this stuff down as they're blowing it up.
Got it.
See all these things? These are bolted in so that nothing can get past that net. Because when they're blowing it out, that net can come off.
And it just drops
down.
down.
This is bolted. They don't want anything on those lines.
Wow. That's crazy. Very cool.
See how they've cut it off?
Yep.
So this will be your new line.
Wow. Not a bad view.
Not a bad view.
You can see the mountains.
And you can see, when you go way up, you can see the George Washington. I posted some pictures of everything up there. You guys might have seen. But so these are new banks of windows that'll go in. So that's creating some of the daylighting that we talked about. We had to rip off all the roof.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is some of the daylighting that I mentioned to you earlier.
Okay. And that's the logo that they said don't mess with.
That's the logo, yeah. So we're going to keep that side. We'll clean all the building up. They'll repoint all the brick, and then we'll redo, and we'll leave that logo will be there. So any project this big, generally, the general contractor is managing the project, hiring the subcontractors, managing the schedule, and then we just beat them up to hurry up and get done.
Yep.
All the rooftop units will go on top of this. Everybody keeps asking me, well, can you do a rooftop terrace or something fun? We'd have loved to do it, but again, I've said this 10 times, because the building's on the lot line, we have nowhere to put a lot of stuff. So everything kind of has to go up top. It would have been amazing views to have the opportunity or the ability to do that. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
This is very cool. So we talked about the acquisition of the property.
Yeah.
What's the exit strategy?
So whenever you do a tax credit deal, you have to have a compliance period of 15 years.
Okay.
So we'll be in this deal for at least 15 years.
Okay.
And then if we want to keep it as a low-income housing project, you're actually able to restart the process after that, to renovate your units or anything like that. You have to comply with the rules again, or you can choose to convert it into a market rate deal.
Oh, okay.
So 15 years is kind of the whole period for a project like this.
Interesting. So I guess haven't decided yet which way you want to go, but that kind of allows you to do a project at this scale, get the tax credits, but then if you want to make it just market rate, if Winchester booms and you want to end up just, hey, we just want to rent this out at normal market rate.
There are hoops to do that in, but that is an option at the end of the project.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
But there are incentives to not do that as well.
For sure. In your upbringing, obviously you talked about you had two working parents. Yeah. Any real estate experience, any real estate things that you ever saw your parents doing? Because this is quite the shift if it was just never brought up in your childhood.
I mean, my dad quit school in the 9th grade. My mom I'm the first person to graduate from college. So this was I had a lot of great life mentors, but nothing from my parental background other than, encouraging me to get an education and encouraging me to get good grades. Really, they taught me how to work hard, and that if I wanted to get after something, the only way they knew how to do it was to work hard, to outwork everybody, get up earlier, work later. And so that mindset and work ethic is what got me to where I needed to be, but that needed to be coupled with studying and learning and asking questions and learning how to take risks and what risks you take and which ones you don't. And then, doing all the things that I did, experimenting with things. I think the accounting and finance world really helped me a lot more than other people probably understand from a real estate perspective. It's probably held me back some, but it's also probably given me opportunities to do projects like this, because I maybe didn't do other things that might have set me up for failure. Yeah. And again, like I said earlier before, I don't do ego projects. I don't do projects that I think are sexy. I do them that have to cash flow and they have to be good for me and for the community. And so if they don't fit a couple of my buckets, then I just don't do them. Yeah. I mean, a lot of other people are more willing to do speculative things. That's just not something that's by nature something that I'm comfortable with doing all the time.
Yeah. And now, affordability with college has been a big thing. Would you recommend kids nowadays go to college? Do you think it's worth it?
I think there's definitely aspects that are good for college. I never would have done this project if I didn't go to Virginia Tech. Okay. So a guy that I met at Virginia Tech was Eric Wishneff, who's one of the project partners. Yeah. If we would have never connected, I wouldn't have probably gotten into this level of real estate development. Yeah. Can't say that I wouldn't have done other things. So I think there's social opportunities. I think there's networking opportunities. There was opportunities for me to go to PricewaterhouseCoopers and do some things. I got to travel the United States, which I'd never done in my life.
Yeah.
So there were some unique things from that, but all in all, I think it depends on who you are and what you want. I think there's an amazing opportunity to go into the trades, to becoming a construction guy, to learn HVAC, to do electrician. I own an outdoor living company.
Yeah.
We have 55 employees, right? And so those guys are awesome and they know what they're doing and know how to build things. And so if you're interested in that, you can still be an entrepreneur, you can build a business. And you might have an easier pathway to get there. You may not have to take on student debt. You might not have to do those things. So I think each person's going to be unique in those opportunities, but I don't think that college has to be for everybody. And I think that the world has now shown us that you don't have to be successful. By going to college, you're not always successful necessarily.
Yeah.
Because some people come out with liberal arts degrees and things that really don't translate into the real world.
Yeah.
And then you have guys who went into a trade school or went right to work as an apprentice and are making six figures or own their own business and have amazing opportunities with their families.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's different, but I don't think you have to do one of those things at all.
Yeah.
And that's, I've got people on my team that have never gone to college, but you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
And so as long as I think that you're a lifelong learner, that's, I think, the most important part. I know we've talked about that a lot, but I think you have to get better every day you wake up.
Yeah.
And so even if that's only 1% or 5% or whatever that may be, because at the end of your tenure here, you'll be a lot better than when you started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, that's what I think is more important.
Yeah.
It's not where you start, it's where you end up and how you end up and what the process you follow to get there.
I like that. I like that. You talked about your parents instilling a work ethic in you, and my parents did the same thing. I don't have any natural talent other than that I don't quit.
Yep.
So did you do any sports? Do you have any tricks or anything to people that maybe just aren't naturally motivated, anything that you would recommend them do to try and get the ball rolling? I don't know if that's something you can teach, but
I don't think you can teach it. I say tengo hambre, right? I'm hungry. I want to wake up every day and get after it. And I don't think you can teach that to somebody who doesn't want to go do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they can't be useful or successful in life. But for me, I think if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to work and do all the jobs that anybody else on your team will do. I think you got to get up earlier, you got to stay up longer, all those things. You have to want it innately.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it doesn't matter what you do, right? There's a million people smarter than me. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy at all, right? And so, I mean, my GPA is not going to overwhelm anybody, right? My charisma or my personality is not going to overwhelm anybody, but I try to be good at the things I am good at doing, and I try to make improvements to those.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I don't think you can wake up and want to get after it every day. It doesn't matter what you are, an athlete, a student, a professor, a construction worker, a real estate developer, an executive. You have to want it.
Yeah.
And you can't teach that, I don't think.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And then I saw that you've done a few different things in politics. What made you get into politics? What positions have you held? What do you think of the political environment right now of maybe the country at large, but specifically small town? I think your local government's more important than the nationwide government. So kind of what made you want to get into it, and did you enjoy it, and what positions did you hold?
So I volunteered a couple of places, and then I got involved locally, and then I was asked to join the planning commission for the city of Winchester. So got to learn a lot about zoning. That's one of the other, that's helped me as well.
Yeah.
Just learning how things work.
Yeah.
Planning and zoning, how do things get reapproved? How do you get a rezoning done? How do you get this conditional use? So I started there, and then there was a change in the way city council was structured. They had to have a ward system, and they had to have 2 representatives in each ward. So I happen to live in the 4th ward in the city of Winchester. And so they asked me if I would consider running, which I did. I served for 12 years on council. I was 5 years as president of the council. So that was fun. I mean, I think there's a lot of great things that have happened in the city.
Yeah.
Not that we did them necessarily, but I think that we laid the conditions for them to be done.
Yeah.
I think that we help the economic development people make decisions and give them the authority and the resources to invest in projects. And so that was important. And investing in infrastructure, I think, has been clearly important. Keeping a low tax base is important.
Yep.
So I think all those things are conditions of people that want to invest, right? If you're business friendly, then you'll naturally be an attraction and a magnet for people who want to invest and want to be successful and want to do good within the community.
Yeah.
If you put up roadblocks and you're a difficult place to do business in, guess what? That business will go somewhere else. And so at least my mindset has always been, when I was on council, how do I help a business start here? How do I keep them growing here? How do I keep their families living here, making good schools so that they want to live here, work here, and spend spend their dollars here as well?
Yeah, awesome. Well, where can people get in touch with you if they want to get involved in the next real estate deal? If they want to just follow along with this absolutely massive project, where can people find you and where can people get involved?
You can ask Adielle.
Stone Ridge Coast.
StoneRidgeCoast.com is a good spot. We're on LinkedIn. There's a Facebook. She's on all the socials. Right?
Perfect.
So,
I'll put everything at the bottom of the video.
yeah,
We'll put
whatever
all the
you want,
links.
you go to Adielle.
Yeah, awesome.
But we are posting pictures on a regular basis. So
yeah,
keep
no,
up.
this is awesome. I do appreciate you
Absolutely,
letting us come
100%.
out and
Yep.
film it,
Yep.
and yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun.